Hi, I'm Vivek, and welcome to this episode of Coffee Time Gyan.
Hi, I am Adi.
তো কি চ্যানেল হচ্ছে ভাই? চলো চলো হয়ে গেছে চলো চলো
Leave the mic behind. Sir, mic ta Leave the mic.
চলো চলো আচ্ছা থ্যাংক ইউ
Shall we start?
Yeah, so
Hi, this is Aditya and this is Vivek.
welcome to this week's episode of Coffee Time Gyan. Let's get started.
So, welcome to our new episode, and today we are going to talk about something very pervasive, something that Vivekda and I have been discussing for almost
But
years.
before we do, where is my fancy musical instrument that I got in?
You have kept it somewhere. Wait, is it? You want to play it now?
Yeah, that. No, I want it for safety purposes.
Safety purposes, okay. Okay, this is very hard to navigate with the. There you go.
Thank you.
Do you know what it's called, Vivekda?
I believe it's called a Kanpuriya.
I think it's an Ektaga. Because there's only one.
I have no musical gyan, I know that. But it's a good weapon.
Okay. So, anyway, I'll just keep it aside because
No.
I don't like the idea of this being used as a weapon.
It's okay. You were saying?
Okay, so I was saying, do you want to introduce the motion? I don't know,
Sure.
is there-
So in this week's episode, we're focusing on two topics primarily. Number one, we're talking about the work from home situation and COVID in general for the rest of the world. We are focusing on India primarily because of our audience and whatnot, right? Secondly, we'll be talking about with the issue of anonymity in polls and medical data and all the like.
Every other aspect of life, I would
Correct.
say.
Correct.
With regards to security, safety, with regards to elections. This is something I believe, anonymity is something I believe has been debated on continuously after, say from
You're
Cambridge
rambling again.
Analytica.
You're rambling again. This is the intro. Thank you for joining. Let's start with the episode.
So Vivekda, work from home, that's something we're going to discuss, and I think that's only an issue for employed people like you. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just always home. So
You're just starting out.
yeah, so
In a very terrible time, I would say, right?
2020, that's when I graduate.
So you were asking me how my year's been going.
Yeah. So anyway, I believe that you would be able to tell me as to the nuances and the problems and the sort of things that a person has to face with regards to a work from home setup.
So see, the work from home setup, it's a pro and it's a con, right? Let me explain to you why. Primarily, work from home prior to COVID, right, was something every single individual, whoever is listening to it is a liar, would have looked very much forward to, right? Working from home, working in your sweats, trousers, whatnot, without having to, the burden of going to wear formal clothes. Especially for people in our profession where we have a formal clothes set, we have a coat, we have a gown, running around, summers, winters, rainy season, come what may, that is your, attire
Exactly.
around the year, right?
However, they have relaxed it in court. Like nowadays, we don't have to wear the gown because of the COVID situation, I'm guessing.
So, in relation to that, they've realized that too a little bit. They shifted it more to a virtual scenario of
Arbitrations and everything.
e-hearings,
Exactly,
right?
e-hearings,
Rather than physical hearings. That's one segment to it. Another side to it, which is applicable to me more so, is in the corporate side. So wherein we are at a work from home situation, right? But I would say I am still one of the more fortunate ones because I still have a work from home. Right, so I've been talking to some of my peers, my seniors and my juniors who are employed, unlike you as of right now, who just passed this year.
Yeah.
Again, positive note, not a negative. Who's just passed this year, right? So I've been getting very different reactions from all of them. Why I say different is because there are people who I know have been working since June of 2020.
Okay.
When lockdown was just lifted, like unlock 1 came in and they were like immediately told that for tomorrow you have to come to office, come what. And they've been going. Now, it could be due to a financial reason where they have no other choice. It could be due to reasons attributable to the fact that they live very close to office, so it makes no sense to not go. Multiple other factors, right? Now, employers across the country have taken a very different stand in respect to the nature of their business, correct? Manufacturing units, as you know, or rather the essential items, right? The essential businesses, they were open even during COVID, correct? Now, the ancillary to these essential businesses were working from home. Like let's say if we talk about pharma companies, right? Aside from the people who are working at the plants, the people at the regional offices, the sales offices, the corporate offices, they were all working from home, right? But the moment Unlock 1 was announced, they were asked to go to work. Like I have friends in the pharma industry, in the legal services industry even, who've been asked to go from June. Now bear in mind, they enjoyed their work from home from March to June, right? I am still enjoying it. I have the fortune of enjoying it, correct? That comes with its set of pros and cons, and even for the person who's been working in office since June also has its own pros and cons, correct? I have the luxury of working from the comfort of my own home, taking breaks whenever I want to, because I'm not in an office situation. I can tell my office at any point of time that I have to step out for medicines, grocery, banks, whatever and whatnot, and I log back in, right? And I've been given that flexibility that comes with work from home, correct? Okay. That flexibility is not there for people who's there in the office situation. But there's a con to that.
Also, I believe it's what you're explaining is a much, I would say, extended or a very liberal way of looking at it. Correct. Because as far as there are many companies, something that I wanted to bring up with you, there are many companies who are keeping track of how long a person is being logged in.
Absolutely.
What are they actually working on? Whether they're actually working on the projects that are being assigned to them or not.
Absolutely. Which is why I say I've been very fortunate in that regard.
Absolutely.
But there is also a con to this. The con that is there is, although it is not there for me, barring the one last con that I'll mention, is there is very much increased surveillance. I've heard of people working in companies where if they are not typing something on their keyboard every 15 minutes, they're automatically logged out from the company portal, and then mail goes to their HR team that so and so person is not at his desk, his or her desk.
So that's even worse than actually working in a office setup, because we don't I have, even though I'm not employed at this point, I've gone for internship, I've worked in the corporate sector as well. So I've seen that people do not meddle as much. We have those times where you can just step out for some chai or something, or some coffee for that matter, and it wouldn't matter. And it wouldn't matter. But however, you see, although there are some benefits, I would say that these people are receiving. So a lot of these companies are extending their packages to actually accommodate, say, not only better computers, better setup to actually work from home.
So some of my clients who I work with on a regular basis, right? I've heard that some of their companies have even told them that, barring the fact that they have not only extended their work from home till March of 2021. Some companies, for example, if you read the news, TCS probably has mentioned that by the year 2022, 75% of their entire workforce is going to work from home.
Same with Twitter. Mr. Dorsey, right?
Yeah, Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, so Jack Dorsey did mention that their plan is to actually make sure that people can work from home, developing that infrastructure. Now, there are some advantages that corporates enjoy in that.
Right. So that's what I was mentioning. They've been given they've been given stipends which enabled them to, buy furniture for a work from home setup.
Exactly.
Right. Also, companies are reimbursing on telephone bills, internet bills, because they know that I have an employee who's working full-time from home. So they don't need that luxury, right?
Absolutely.
But, and this is a very big but, because there comes a big con to this. The con to this is the typical working mentality of a 9 to 5 job does not exist anymore. Because I'll tell you frankly, from my perspective, there are times when I'm working till 2 in the morning, there are times when I'm working till 6 p.m. in the morning. And I end my day, right? So that flexibility in logging in and logging out has led to an absence of a working hour per se.
Okay.
Because people automatically
So you're working around the clock.
Right.
There's
So
no really break, essentially. It's like taking a break of 20 minutes here and there and actually not getting that time to yourself.
Correct. So basically people automatically assume if you're working from home, you're always available.
Yeah.
It's whether it's 10 in the night, 6 in the morning, 7 in the evening, you're there. It's like ghar pe hi to ho.
That's what. I think, that creates also harping on the next, to continue on the next topic as well, which we are going to discuss. I think it's important to discuss privacy when we are working from home, right?
Privacy and, boundaries.
Absolutely.
Right. So before we conclude with this topic, I'll just mention one thing. to all employers, whether you're making your employees work from office and risking them to exposure to COVID and whatnot, right? Whether or not you are maintaining the required social distancing, sanitization, and all guidelines, the state government of various states, the central government, in the guidelines have clearly mentioned that work from home should be encouraged as much as possible. So if you're calling your employees to office, ensure that it is for the utmost critical reason only, and it is not a repetitive nature unless their profession and their skill set requires to be have them present on the site, right?
Absolutely.
Like, let's say if he's an engineer who needs to work on the machines at the factory, he's required to be present on the site. That is justified. But for people whose work can be done from home, don't make them come to the office for no reason.
And it's also that, I guess, like, with the work from home culture, you would see that there has been a decrease in commercial real estate, and there has been an increase towards and a shift towards people buying more residential housing.
Absolutely.
Why is that? Commercial real estate, clearly, when more people are working from home, you need less infrastructure to accommodate them.
Absolutely.
So they work as individual units which are connected through the, say, company portal. Or
Absolutely. So that's the thing. Have more faith in your employees. These are full-grown adults. They are not school children who need to be monitored.
Yeah, it's not a carrot and stick method that management should use at this point of time.
Correct.
Those are age-old ideas.
In this context, rather, I like my employer for this reason is that A, they have that faith in us, and B, they do not ask you questions or put you through unnecessary stress as long as the work gets done, and that should be the end line, right?
Absolutely.
As long as the work gets done, as an employer, why should you care otherwise whether
There's no point of badgering somebody with nothing, right?
Right. So there have been multiple institutions and companies who have been surveying their employees because they are so insecure about it. Don't be insecure. Hire better people if you're feeling insecure. Right, but have some faith in your employees. Your employees, and you will agree with me on this, your employees are what make or break the existence and continuity of your organization.
They're the most important part of the company structure.
If you do not trust your employees, trust me, your organization is not going to last long. And with that, let us conclude this. Peace. Thank you. So moving on to our next topic of discussion. So we'll talk about anonymity, but before that, let me preface this with a couple of things in advance. We talked about the US elections in our last episode, and a few episodes back we talked about the Zenhua data leak.
Yes. Hybrid warfare.
Right. So, and we've talked about this topic of anonymity, data privacy a lot in general, but I believe you want to add a few more things to that discussion, right?
So, because you said this, it's very pervasive at this point of time where data transfer, collection, everything has become such easy. It's really easy to access data these days. Like, for example, you see a lot of people actually talking about the dark web these days. They talk about a lot of things. They talk about things they can find on the dark web. So these are issues that every other country is actually dealing with. Privacy is something that has become a huge concern. Privacy and security, coupled with security. Now, what do I mean by that? But that is something I'll come to. However, I want to begin this topic of anonymity with regards to the election. That's something we discussed previously. So if we go back to the 2016 elections, when Trump was actually elected, there was a lot of allegations that there were a lot of Russian hackers who were making bots which was actually propagating, say, various kinds of falsified information.
And then we had the reveal regarding the Cambridge Analytica thing.
Exactly, that is like a year before that, which is also like completely had to do with analyzing election data and analyzing, so essentially
election data, voter data,
yeah. So essentially to sway the elections their way. Now, with regards to the 2016 elections, okay, and this year's election, whatever, both of these elections when was conducted, there was a very important thing that was being discussed as to the source. With Facebook, be it Twitter, be it any other social media platform at this point of time facing a lot of trouble because of the policies they have with regards to that anybody can post anything and there's no verification of the sort of information that is being propagated. Now, for example, somebody who's on Facebook, be it me or you doing it, has a different impact. Right. So and somebody who is a professional hacker who's per se creating 50 bots and propagating a news, it's a very different story. Right? Because here we have to it's a balance of convenience as to where we can preserve our own right to actually speak out, actually put something out there which we want to put out there. Also, side by side, maintaining that the source of any information that is being put out there is at least verified, or if not verified, it should be mentioned that it's opinion. Like for our disclaimer, we have always mentioned that it's a opinion that we are sharing. It's not
Our own opinion.
Our own opinion, exactly. That's not something per se we are propagating, right? Now,
So in this context, two things I remember. So one thing is about in relation to Twitter. So if you will see, so Trump, makes a lot of, let's say, agitated tweets, right? And Twitter flags those out as, like, till the day in his presidency, Twitter flags those out that is, they may or may not be insightful, they may or may not be, objectionable and whatnot, right?
it's just not insightful.
Insightful, not insightful.
It's
C, not S.
It's just not.
It's inciting.
Oh, inside. No, it's. I thought you were talking about S. So it's definitely not insightful. Right?
So yeah, the other thing that I recall is there's two companies. One though you'll definitely know. So one of these companies is Expedia.
Okay.
Expedia. So it's a travel website of sorts, like the Lonely Planet, right? And also another one you would be knowing very well in India is this company called Big Basket.
Yeah.
They recently had massive data breaches in which
Around 2 crore people. Yeah.
Correct, got affected, right? So, that raises the question that should you at all be sharing these kinds of data?
Because you brought up the big basket thing, I had to share this. It's like, do you know, like what, SN, I think it's Sybil, that a company has given a quote for the data that was leaked. It is actually not that much. It's 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs for 2 crores worth of data, which includes addresses, which includes their consumer behavioral patterns, essentially. Right. Now, these are things that are being sold for 30 lakhs out there. So anybody who wishes to even do something with it, even for like fun, for that matter, if I want to go out and get it, it's not that difficult, right?
And just raise some red flags. I used to be a Big Basket subscriber. I still am. And prior to the news of this thing coming out, I had no idea that such thing had happened. Right? If I'm not wrong, the Indian IT Act, the Information Technology Act, has certain rules which mandate that you need to inform your customers and whatnot.
I think within 14 days, you have to give a public notification if within 14 days the data is not retrieved.
Yeah, you have to give the notification of the CERT within 24 hours and within 30 days if I'm not wrong, the affected users. Right?
Okay.
I'll have to check my mails, but I doubt I've received anything in that regard.
Clearly, you understand that procedure in general is not something we keen on following.
We have guidelines, but clearly, it's up for a toss whether it's being followed.
Absolutely, and with regards to this, you would see that even why privacy, the fact that privacy has become such an important issue, we clearly see that with even Apple. Okay, they have come up with the fact that from now on, they're endorsing a new thing that is on the Apple Store. Right, they will have to show as to which are the data that is being collected, and they have to specify the data that can be used to track.
Now, if you talk about tech companies, right, I would side with Apple on this. They are a very privacy-focused company.
Absolutely.
If you remember, last year, they introduced this thing called the Apple ID. So what the Apple ID is essentially is
a dossier of information?
Not really. What the Apple ID essentially does is, whichever website support it, so you log in with your Apple ID to that particular website, right? Apple in turn provides dummy data to that website and logs you in through your credentials, your actual credentials, which is stored with Apple.
Okay.
Right? Now, unless an iCloud breach happens, your data is safe because only Apple has access to it. The company from which you are availing the service receives only dummy data from their end, which is of no use to a hacker. Should such data leak out, right? Unless Apple gets targeted at the end of the day, right? That has happened.
Of course, that.
But again, I really appreciate this approach because if you also see the recent iPhone ads and whatnot, they're advocating privacy.
Absolutely.
Right,
That you
which
cannot
is-
actually get into Apple.
So that's you would say the selling point for me with Apple is that they are privacy focused, they have been privacy focused, they are becoming more privacy focused.
Exactly.
Right? Which is the need of the hour.
Now, moving on from there to a more as to social problem that this brings into bringing that into context. Like for example, we discussed Zenua back about how hybrid warfare is something that is some sort of a we are really moving forward in generations where the next world war would be fought over computers then, I guess. So that entire approach as to how much one person, sitting in one computer in one part of the world can affect maybe a group of people somewhere else altogether. And I'll give you a very small example, right? So recently, I don't know if you saw this news, but there was this problem with Telegram, the messaging app that we have, Telegram, that there are various groups that are being formed by bots, and that is propagating not only pictures but various sort of private information about people. And there were around 10,000 morph nudes that were leaked. I add that. Those are morphed ones. Deepfakes, exactly. So things like that is something that has become very prevalent, and we saw a huge debate about it with regards to the boys' locker room thing that happened a couple of months back, beginning of this year, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So this entire approach where anonymity is becoming a problem is that people are not being responsible for the things that they're saying on the internet.
Agreed. So if you remember this thing, you were talking about a couple of episodes back, right? Your data, your persona in general is up for sale. It's up to you to use your best judgment, proper security, proper mechanisms, whether it be through password protection, VPN managers, two-step authentication, biometric authentication, whatnot.
Absolutely.
To best protect yourself. Because see,
but
there is
even
no
then,
absolute,
Vivek, even then.
So that's what I'm saying. Even then, there is no absolute guarantee that you are safe.
Exactly. And the bigger point, the social problem that I'm trying to target here is basically, it's with everybody. You would see that people just out there are propagating hate in general. Social media has become, I feel, like a breeding ground for hate. So be it stalking, be it cyberbullying, be it there's like tons of lewd comments that you would see from various fake accounts, various bots, and they're sending in these, and the impact that it is having is on the security of the person who's is on the receiving end of it.
Absolutely.
How is a person will feel safe, be it a woman, be it a man, whatsoever. Let's say woman for that matter. Let's take that example, because as it is, you see that there has been gender inequality for so long. So even today, when we are trying to actually move ahead and actually guarantee equality in those ends, we are not providing a very safe environment, not only with regards to aspects of where we are in the space of land, air and other stuff, but also the cyberspace. We are not providing an environment where, say, a person, be it a woman or a man, can...
So in this regard, you just reminded me of something. So I was reading this news article today about the founder of the World Wide Web, right?
Yeah.
So he was mentioning about some technology that he's developing or has developed, which would allow companies, organizations, governments even, to host private secure servers that are cut off from the rest of the world for the purpose of storing sensitive data. Now see, there have been and there are developments like this, private security,
data protection bill, having separate servers,
blockchain.
But that is what I am not really targeting that. I'm targeting the very basic mentality that people are not being responsible with the kind of behavior they're putting out there on the internet.
So how do you ideally sum this up for us?
So summing it up, it's like, please, if you're out there, whether you're a guy or a woman, try and understand that you have a social responsibility towards other human beings, and it is not all right whether you can be tracked down or not, but it's a responsibility that you have through customs. You have it's almost tortious in nature that you're not supposed to actually go out there and bully somebody. You're not supposed to go out there and make somebody feel unsafe for that matter, because that is if I would want to punch you right now, if I make those gestures, then that would be considered assault, right? Then we have to figure out a way as to how we can tackle these problems through these various places, like whether it's Instagram, Reddit, Telegram, or even Facebook. We have to. If you ask me, this is the problem that we are facing right now. The balance of convenience as to whether or not a complete surveillance would actually help the system, or would it actually set it back even by more years, or so going about it would be a very difficult task. It will have to track down bots.
Propose a solution. That's my ask to you.
The only solution that I can come up with at this point of time, I would say, is that we become more aware. And not only that, we become more considerate as a generation. It's not okay. It is really not okay to harass somebody. You might like somebody, that's fine. You can't go out there and make it a point to say, make that person feel like you're stalking them. Or there are some fine lines that you're not supposed to cross.
Essentially, barring all the safeguards and securities that society has in place, be more considerate of the person next to you, whether in reality or digitally. Behave as you would in a physical setting.
Absolutely.
In a considerate manner. Right?
And take responsibility for the sort of things you're putting out there.
Own up for the things you put out.
Because right now it is a problem, and I'm sure that eventually we will have a solution to this problem, and people will be more aware to the recourses that one might have with regards to reporting, with regards to, say, kind of approaching local forums for that matter. And I believe that it's time now that we have a sort of a tribunal or a local forum to address these matters, because this has become something of a regular thing with people, I guess.
So, in closing, essentially, behave as you would to another human being. Be kind, be considerate.
Don't be a dick.
And don't bully people just for the heck of it. And with that, thank you for tuning in.
Hari Om. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Coffee Time Gyan. And we hope that you would like us, subscribe to us, and preferably leave a feedback. And please do remind me to get this out of your
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah. Please do.